Being good is not enough when you know you can become better. Most people want to be great at something, but they approach improvement without a clear method. They practice randomly. They quit when progress becomes slow. They compare themselves with people who have already spent years developing their skills. Then they decide they are not talented enough. That is not the real problem. The real problem is that most people never learn how improvement actually works. Becoming the best at anything requires more than natural ability. You need to know what deserves your attention, how to practice correctly, how to handle mistakes, how to keep working when progress feels uncomfortable, and how to raise your standards as your ability grows. In this audiobook, you will learn how to choose the right skill to master, start with focused action, develop overlooked skills, learn faster, make better private decisions, and increase your effort when greater responsibility demands more from you. Stay until the end, because the goal is not simply to become good at something. The goal is to become the kind of person who keeps improving until excellence becomes part of everyday life. Chapter 1. Find what you truly want to master. Becoming the best at anything starts with choosing what deserves your serious effort. Your life changes when you stop trying to become good at everything and start becoming excellent at something that matters to you. The strongest performers are not always the most talented people in the room. They are often the people who know what they want to improve and keep working on it long after the first excitement disappears. There is a simple reason this matters. Your time is limited. Your energy changes from day to day, and your attention can only stay deeply focused on a small number of things. Every hour you spend improving one skill is an hour you cannot spend improving another. This does not mean you should ignore the rest of your life. It means you must decide which ability deserves your best attention. A person who keeps changing direction may work hard for years and still feel like a beginner. A person who stays with one meaningful skill can become remarkably capable through steady practice. Start by getting honest about what you actually want to master. Do not choose something because it sounds impressive. Do not choose something because other people praise it. Do not choose something because you believe it will make people respect you. Ask yourself what kind of ability you would still want to develop after the excitement of being noticed has disappeared. That answer can reveal more about your real direction than any impressive goal written on a piece of paper. Take a quiet page and write down 3 skills you would genuinely like to become excellent at. Keep the list practical. You might write speaking clearly, writing well, selling, teaching, managing money, building a business, cooking, programming, playing an instrument, leading a team, or becoming physically stronger. Do not judge the list yet. The purpose of this first step is to see what naturally keeps returning to your mind. Now look carefully at each choice and ask why you want it. This part matters because people often choose goals for reasons they have never examined. A person may say they want to become a successful business owner when what they really want is independence. Someone may say they want to become a great speaker when what they really want is confidence. Another person may say they want to become financially successful when what they really want is freedom from constant money pressure. Understanding the deeper reason helps you stay committed during ordinary days. A useful test is to separate interest from commitment. Interest feels good at the beginning. Commitment remains after the beginning becomes boring. You may enjoy watching videos about photography, but that does not automatically mean you want to spend hundreds of hours learning how light affects an image. You may enjoy hearing successful people speak, but that does not mean you are willing to practice speaking alone in a quiet room and listen to recordings of your own voice. Mastery requires more than liking the result. It requires accepting the work that creates the result. There is another test that can save you years of wasted effort. Look at the daily activities connected to the skill and ask whether you can accept doing them repeatedly. Every valuable ability has ordinary work attached to it. Writing requires editing. Leadership requires difficult conversations. Business requires numbers and decisions. Fitness requires regular training and recovery. Public speaking requires preparation and practice. Learning a language requires repeated exposure and correction. The final result may look exciting, but the daily process is usually much more ordinary. This is where many people make a serious mistake. They choose the identity before understanding the work. They say they want to be a writer, entrepreneur, athlete, speaker, artist, or leader. But they have not yet decided whether they are willing to do the basic activities that make those identities real. A better approach is to choose the work first, become interested in the process, learn what the skill demands, then decide whether you are ready to stay with it. You should also understand the difference between being interested in a subject and having a natural advantage in it. Natural ability can make the first stage easier, but it does not tell you how far you can go. Someone may learn quickly at the beginning and become careless because early success comes easily. Another person may struggle at first and develop stronger learning habits because they have to pay attention to every mistake. Over time, the second person can become better because they learned how to improve rather than simply relying on early ability. Your starting point does not need to be perfect. Your direction needs to be clear enough to begin. Many people delay action because they want complete certainty about the right choice. They want to know whether a skill will lead to success before they give it serious effort. That information rarely exists at the beginning. You learn more about a path by walking it for a period of time than by thinking about it endlessly. Give yourself a real trial period. Choose one skill and work on it seriously for 30 days. Do not promise that you will master it in 30 days. That would be unrealistic. Promise that you will study it, practice it, and measure your progress for 30 days without constantly changing direction. This experiment gives you useful evidence. You will discover whether your interest survives effort. You will learn what parts of the skill attract you. You will also discover which parts make you want to quit. Keep a simple record during those 30 days. Write down what you practiced, how long you practiced, what went wrong, and what improved. 4 short lines each day are enough. This creates something many people lack. It creates evidence. Instead of saying you are getting better or worse based on your mood, you can look at what actually happened. You may discover that your skill improved after only 20 focused sessions. You may also discover that your biggest problem was not ability, but inconsistent practice. Measurement changes behavior because vague goals create vague effort. Saying that you want to become better at writing does not tell you what to do today. Writing 500 useful words gives you a clear action. Saying that you want to become a better speaker is unclear. Recording a 3-minute explanation every morning is measurable. Saying that you want to become better at business is too broad. Studying one customer problem and writing 3 possible solutions gives you something you can actually complete. The next step is to define what being excellent means in practical terms. Do not use words such as great, amazing, successful, or perfect without explaining them. Those words can sound powerful while giving you no direction. Replace them with observable standards. A strong writer can explain a difficult idea clearly. A strong speaker can hold attention while making the message easy to understand. A strong salesperson can understand a customer's problem and explain a useful solution. A strong leader can make clear decisions and take responsibility for the results. Your standard should be something another person could observe. This makes improvement much easier. You can ask someone to read your writing and identify unclear sections. You can record yourself speaking and notice where your explanation becomes confusing. You can review your business decisions and compare them with actual results. You can track your physical training with simple numbers. The more clearly you define the skill, the easier it becomes to identify what needs work. There is a powerful lesson here. You do not improve a skill by admiring the skill. You improve it by identifying the specific behaviors that produce quality. A person who wants to become an excellent speaker should not simply watch motivational speakers for hours. They should study how strong speakers organize ideas, explain examples, control their pace, remove unnecessary words, and respond to people. Watching can provide information, but practice turns information into ability. This leads to another important decision. Choose the person you want to become through your actions rather than through your image. Your image is what you want people to believe about you. Your character is what you repeatedly do when nobody is watching. If you want to master a skill, your private routine matters more than public claims. The quiet hour spent practicing is more important than telling people that you are serious. Do not announce every new goal. Give yourself enough quiet space to work without needing immediate approval. Public attention can sometimes create pressure to appear successful before you have built the ability. You may start caring more about looking productive than becoming capable. Keeping your early work private can protect your attention. It allows you to make mistakes without worrying about how those mistakes look to other people. There is also a practical reason to choose one main skill at a time. Deep learning requires repeated contact with the same type of problem. Your brain needs opportunities to notice patterns. A beginner sees many separate mistakes. A skilled person starts recognizing similar problems quickly because they have encountered them many times. That recognition develops through focused exposure. Constantly changing subjects interrupts that process. You can still have other interests. You can read different books, exercise, spend time with family, learn useful life skills, and handle your responsibilities. The point is not to make your entire life about one activity. The point is to have one major area where you deliberately pursue improvement. One serious skill can become your main training ground for discipline, patience, attention, decision-making, and problem-solving. Your choice should also match your current season of life. A parent with young children may need a different learning schedule than a university student. Someone working long hours may have 30 minutes available each day. Someone with more free time may have several hours. Do not copy another person's routine without considering your own responsibilities. The best plan is one you can repeat without damaging the important parts of your life. Start with the time you can honestly protect. 30 focused minutes every day can be more useful than planning 3 hours and completing none. Consistency builds familiarity. Familiarity makes practice easier to start. Once starting becomes easier, you can gradually increase the amount of focused work. The goal is not to create an impressive schedule. The goal is to create a schedule that actually happens. Pay attention to the time of day when your mind works best. Some people learn clearly in the morning. Others become more focused later in the day. You do not need to follow a popular routine. Test your own attention. For 7 days, practice your chosen skill at the same time and record how focused you feel. Then test another time for 7 days. Compare the quality of your work. This simple experiment can help you build a routine based on evidence rather than preference. Your environment matters too. A person can have strong intentions and still struggle because the surroundings constantly interrupt attention. Put the phone away during practice. Close unnecessary tabs. Tell people around you that you need a short period of uninterrupted work. Keep the materials for your skill ready before the session begins. Small changes reduce the number of decisions required to start. There is another problem worth understanding. People often choose goals that are too large to guide daily behavior. Becoming the best in the world is not a useful task for Tuesday morning. It is too distant. A better question is what specific ability must improve next. You might need to write clearer introductions. You might need to speak without rushing. You might need to solve customer problems faster. You might need to improve your accuracy. Specific improvement gives your effort a target. Use a simple daily question. What part of my skill is weak today? Write down one answer. Then spend your practice session working directly on that weakness. This prevents random practice. Random practice can feel productive because you are busy, but focused practice gives you information about what actually needs improvement. You should also learn to separate discomfort from danger. Difficult practice can feel uncomfortable because your current ability is being tested. Your attention becomes tired. Mistakes become obvious. You may feel slow. Those feelings do not automatically mean you are on the wrong path. Sometimes they simply show that you are working at the edge of your current ability. The important task is to notice whether the difficulty is teaching you something. There is a useful way to handle this. After a difficult practice session, do not simply say that it was hard. Write down exactly what made it hard. Maybe you could not remember the steps. Maybe your timing was poor. Maybe you lacked basic knowledge. Maybe you became distracted. Each problem points toward a different solution. This turns frustration into information. Mastery becomes much easier when you stop treating mistakes as personal judgments. A mistake is evidence about your current method. Your job is to examine it without becoming defensive. A poor result may show that your approach is wrong. A repeated mistake may show that you never learned a basic skill. A sudden drop in performance may show that you are tired or distracted. The result gives you information that you can use. This is especially important because emotional reactions can interfere with learning. You may spend 10 minutes feeling embarrassed about one mistake and only 1 minute studying why it happened. That is an expensive habit. Learn to shorten the emotional reaction and increase the learning response. Notice the mistake, name the cause, change the method, try again. Your chosen skill should also connect to something meaningful in your real life. A skill becomes easier to sustain when you can see where it helps you. Better communication can improve your work and relationships. Better financial knowledge can reduce careless spending. Better writing can make your ideas easier for others to understand. Better fitness can improve your energy and daily confidence. Better leadership can help your team work with less confusion. Meaning does not remove hard work. It gives hard work a clear reason. On a difficult day, you may not feel excited about practice, but you can still remember what the skill allows you to do. That connection can help you continue without depending on temporary emotion. Do not wait to feel passionate every day. Passion changes. Discipline gives you a more stable system. The person who practices only when excited will have an unpredictable learning pattern. The person who practices according to a reasonable schedule will accumulate more useful experience. Over months and years, that difference becomes enormous. You should also choose teachers carefully. The person who is good at something is not automatically good at explaining it. Look for people who can show their process clearly. Study how they solve problems. Pay attention to the order of their decisions. Notice what they check before acting. Ask yourself what they do that beginners usually skip. The goal is not to copy their personality. The goal is to understand the behaviors that produce their results. One of the most useful habits is to study people who are slightly better than you, not only people who are at the highest level. A beginner may learn more from an intermediate person who recently solved the same basic problems. The information is closer to their current needs. You can still study experts for advanced ideas, but do not ignore people who are only a few steps ahead. Take notes differently too. Instead of writing down every sentence you hear, record actions. Write what the person does. Write what they avoid. Write how they prepare. Write how they check quality. Write what they do after making a mistake. This converts learning from passive information into practical instructions. Then test one lesson at a time. Do not collect 20 new techniques and attempt to use them all in one day. Choose one useful idea and practice it for a week. Observe the result. Keep it if it helps. Adjust it if necessary. Remove it if it does not fit your situation. This process protects you from constantly changing methods. You need patience because real skill develops through accumulation. One practice session rarely changes your ability in an obvious way. 10 sessions may show a small difference. 100 focused sessions can produce a meaningful change. The problem is that people often quit during the stage where improvement is real, but not yet dramatic. They judge the process too early. Measure progress across longer periods. Compare your work from this month with your work from 3 months ago. Look for specific changes. Are you making fewer errors? Are you working faster without losing quality? Can you handle harder problems? Can you explain the subject more clearly? Can you notice mistakes earlier? These are stronger signs of improvement than simply asking whether you feel talented. Another useful practice is to keep examples of your old work. Save your first attempts, keep recordings, keep early drafts, keep performance notes. Looking back can reveal progress that your daily emotions hide. It can also show you patterns you forgot. Sometimes the person who believes they have not improved simply has no reliable record of where they started. Your goal is not to become perfect. Perfect is not a useful daily standard because there is always another detail to improve. A better standard is to become more capable than you were before. This creates room for ambition without creating unnecessary pressure. You can take your work seriously while accepting that development takes time. There will also be moments when you discover that you chose the wrong skill. That is not always failure. A serious trial can reveal useful information. Maybe you enjoy learning about a subject but dislike doing the actual work. Maybe the skill does not fit your responsibilities. Maybe another ability matters more to your future. You can change direction after collecting evidence. The important thing is to change because you learned something, not because the first week became difficult. Before changing direction, examine the real reason. Are you bored because the work is wrong, or are you bored because you have reached the repetitive stage of learning? Are you changing because the skill does not fit your goals, or because another person seems to be progressing faster? Are you leaving because you found a better path, or because you want to escape the discomfort of being a beginner? Honest answers protect you from repeating the same cycle. A person who keeps starting over never gives one skill enough time to become deeply developed. Each new beginning feels exciting because the early stage produces quick discoveries. But real ability is built after the easy discoveries are finished. That is the stage where you must study details, correct weak habits, and repeat basic actions. The work becomes less exciting but more valuable. You can make this stage easier by keeping your daily practice specific. Begin each session by writing one target. Spend the first few minutes reviewing the last mistake you recorded. Practice the target skill without distractions. End by writing what improved and what still needs attention. This creates a simple loop of preparation, practice, review, and adjustment. That loop can become the foundation of your development. It does not require expensive equipment. It does not require perfect confidence. It requires attention and honesty. You need to know what you are trying to improve. You need to spend time practicing it. You need to examine the result. Then you need to change the next session based on what you learned. There is also a deeper personal benefit. Learning to master one meaningful skill teaches you how you respond to difficulty. You discover whether you avoid problems, blame circumstances, rush through practice, or stay with the issue until you understand it. The skill becomes a place where your habits become visible. That knowledge can improve other areas of your life. For example, someone learning to write may discover that they rush before understanding the subject. Once they notice this, they can slow down before making important decisions at work. Someone learning public speaking may discover that they avoid silence because they fear judgment. They can learn to pause and speak more clearly in everyday conversations. Someone learning business may discover that they react emotionally to bad numbers. They can develop a calmer approach to financial decisions. This is why choosing one skill seriously can become more than career development. It can become personal education. You learn how you think. You learn how you react. You learn how you handle correction. You learn how you organize your time. You learn whether your actions match your stated goals. So choose carefully, but do not wait forever. Pick the ability that has real value in your life and that you are willing to practice consistently. Define what excellent performance means in observable terms. Give yourself a 30-day period of serious work. Track your practice. Study people who perform well. Identify your weakest point. Work on that point directly. Review your results and adjust your method. Tomorrow does not need a dramatic change. It needs a clear target. Sit down with your chosen skill and give it your full attention for a short period. Put the phone away. Remove the unnecessary noise. Write down what you are working on. Practice slowly enough to notice your errors. Finish the session by recording one thing you learned and one thing you will improve next time. Do this again the next day, then again. Over time, you will begin to understand something that many people miss. Becoming the best at anything is not mainly about wanting the title of being the best. It is about becoming the kind of person who studies carefully, practices honestly, accepts correction, measures progress, and keeps improving after the excitement is gone. Your chosen skill gives you a place to practice those qualities every day. Choose something worth becoming excellent at. Give it enough attention to discover what serious improvement requires. Let your daily actions answer the question of who you want to become. Your future ability will be shaped less by what you say you want, and more by what you repeatedly decide deserves your time. Chapter 2. Start small and take your work seriously. Serious progress begins with the work you are willing to do today. You do not need a perfect plan or a huge schedule to become highly skilled. You need a small task that you can complete with full attention. People often make improvement harder than it needs to be because they start with goals that are too large. They plan hours of study, expect rapid results, and create routines that collapse after a few busy days. A better approach is to begin with work that is small enough to repeat and important enough to deserve your attention. Starting small does not mean thinking small. It means giving yourself a clear starting point. A person who wants to become an excellent writer can begin by writing one useful page each day. Someone learning to speak better can practice explaining one idea clearly for 5 minutes. Someone learning business can study one customer problem and write down possible solutions. Someone learning a musical instrument can practice one difficult section instead of playing random songs for an hour. The task is small, but the learning can be serious. The first skill you are building is not the skill itself. You are building the ability to show up and work properly. This matters because many people know what they should do but rarely give the task their full attention. They open a book while checking messages. They practice while watching videos. They write while switching between several websites. They call this multitasking, but much of the time it is simply divided attention. Serious work requires a clear period where one task receives most of your mental energy. Try a simple test today. Choose one task connected to the ability you want to develop and give it 20 uninterrupted minutes. Put your phone somewhere you cannot easily reach it. Close anything that does not belong to the task. Keep only the materials you need. Work until the timer ends. Then write down what you completed. You may be surprised by how much more you accomplish when your attention is not being pulled in different directions. The quality of a small session matters more than the appearance of a large session. Someone can sit at a desk for 3 hours and spend much of that time distracted. Another person can work with full attention for 30 minutes and produce more useful learning. This does not mean shorter practice is always better. It means you should measure the quality of your effort instead of judging yourself by the number of hours you planned. Take your work seriously by preparing before you begin. Decide exactly what the session is for. Do not sit down and ask yourself what you feel like doing. That creates unnecessary decisions. Write one specific task before starting. For example, instead of saying you will study communication, decide that you will practice explaining a complicated idea using simple words. Instead of saying you will improve your writing, decide that you will rewrite one paragraph until every sentence is clear. Small tasks also make weaknesses easier to see. A large goal can hide the real problem because there are too many activities involved. A focused task gives you immediate feedback. You may discover that your writing becomes unclear when you explain technical information. You may notice that your speech becomes rushed when you feel nervous. You may find that your calculations contain the same type of mistake. Once you see the specific weakness, you can train it directly. This is one reason beginners should resist the urge to do everything at once. Too much activity can create the feeling of progress without producing much improvement. You read 5 books, watch 10 videos, download several courses, and collect pages of notes. At the end of the week, you know more information but cannot perform the skill any better. Learning becomes useful only when information changes what you can do. After learning something, use it immediately. Read a lesson about clear communication and then explain an idea without looking at your notes. Study sales and then practice describing a product in simple language. Learn about budgeting and then examine your own spending. Study leadership and then improve one conversation with a person you work with. Action exposes gaps that reading alone cannot reveal. Taking your work seriously also means respecting boring practice. Some of the most important improvement happens during activities that nobody would find impressive. Repeating basic exercises can feel ordinary. Reviewing old mistakes can feel uncomfortable. Cleaning up weak work can feel slower than starting something new. Yet these activities often improve the exact areas that prevent people from moving forward. You should learn to recognize the difference between useful repetition and mindless repetition. Repeating the same action without paying attention can strengthen the same mistake. Serious practice requires observation. Notice what happened. Compare it with the standard you want. Identify one difference. Change your method. Try again. That small cycle turns repetition into learning. For example, a person practicing public speaking may record a short explanation every day. The first recording may reveal that the speaker talks too quickly. Instead of simply recording another speech, the person can practice slowing down and adding short pauses. The next recording provides new evidence. Perhaps the pace improves, but the explanation becomes too long. The next session can focus on removing unnecessary words. Each session has a purpose. This approach creates a valuable habit. You stop asking whether you are talented and start asking what needs to improve. That change can make learning much more productive. Talent is difficult to measure at the beginning. Behavior is easier to measure. You can measure practice time, completed tasks, errors, quality, speed, and consistency. These numbers do not tell you everything, but they give you something real to work with. Your first goal should be to create a routine that survives ordinary life. Busy days will happen. You will feel tired. Work will become demanding. Family responsibilities will appear. Your schedule will not always cooperate. A routine that requires perfect conditions will eventually fail. A smaller routine gives you a better chance of continuing. Create a minimum version of your practice. Perhaps your normal session is 30 minutes, but your minimum is 10. On a good day, you do 30. On a difficult day, you protect the 10. This does not mean lowering your standards. It means preventing one difficult day from becoming a week of avoidance. The important thing is to keep the connection with the skill alive while maintaining reasonable expectations. At the same time, do not use small habits as an excuse to avoid serious effort. Starting small is a way to build consistency, not a permanent reason to stay comfortable. Once the routine becomes stable, increase the challenge. Move from 10 minutes to 20. Move from simple exercises to harder ones. Move from copying examples to creating your own work. Growth requires increasing difficulty as your ability develops. Take your work seriously enough to review it. Many people finish a task and immediately move to something else. They miss the opportunity to learn from what they just did. Spend a few minutes after practice asking what worked, what failed, and what should change tomorrow. Keep the review short and honest. You do not need a long journal. You need useful information. Your surroundings should support this seriousness. Keep your workspace ready. Keep your notebook nearby. Prepare the material before the session. Remove obvious distractions. Make the first action easy. When the environment reduces friction, starting requires less effort. This matters because the hardest part of many habits is not doing the work. It is beginning. Do not wait for motivation to make the session meaningful. Your mood is not a reliable measurement of whether the work matters. Some days you will feel energetic. Other days you will sit down feeling tired and uncertain. The quality of the day can still improve because you chose to work carefully. A serious person learns to separate feelings from responsibilities. There is also a quiet form of confidence that comes from keeping small promises to yourself. You say you will practice at 7, and you practice at 7. You say you will complete one exercise, and you complete it. You decide to review your mistakes, and you actually review them. These actions create evidence that you can trust yourself. Confidence becomes less dependent on positive feelings because it is based on repeated behavior. Be careful with the desire to make every session impressive. You do not need to produce your best work every day. Some sessions are for learning. Some are for correction. Some are for testing. Some are simply for maintaining the habit. Your responsibility is to know the purpose of the session and perform it properly. Today, choose one small task that directly improves the ability you want to master. Give it a fixed amount of uninterrupted time. Remove your phone and unnecessary distractions. Work slowly enough to notice your mistakes. Do not judge the session by how impressive it looks. Judge it by whether you gave the task honest attention and learned something useful. Tomorrow, repeat the process with one adjustment. Make the task slightly clearer. Correct one weakness. Increase the difficulty only when the current level becomes manageable. Keep a simple record of what you did. After several weeks, you will have more than motivation. You will have evidence of practice, correction, and growing ability. The people who become highly capable are not always the people who begin with the biggest plans. They are often the people who learn how to take ordinary work seriously. They understand that a small task deserves full attention. They understand that quality improves through feedback. They understand that consistency creates experience. Most importantly, they stop waiting for the perfect day and use the day they have. Give today's work your full attention. Make the task small enough to begin and meaningful enough to matter. Do it carefully. Review what happened. Correct one weakness. Then return tomorrow and do the next useful piece of work. That is how a simple daily practice becomes real ability. Chapter 3. Learn the skills most people ignore. Some of the most valuable abilities are not the ones people talk about most. Many people spend years trying to improve the obvious skill while ignoring the smaller abilities that determine how well that skill is used. A talented worker can still struggle because they cannot communicate clearly. A knowledgeable person can remain overlooked because they cannot explain their ideas. A hard-working employee can lose opportunities because they do not know how to manage time or handle difficult conversations. Becoming excellent requires more than improving the main skill. It requires learning the supporting skills that make the main skill useful. Start by looking beyond the skill itself. Every important ability depends on several smaller abilities. A writer needs observation, research, editing, organization, and clear thinking. A business owner needs communication, decision-making, customer understanding, financial awareness, and patience. A leader needs listening, planning, emotional control, accountability, and the ability to explain expectations. These supporting abilities are easy to ignore because they do not always receive attention, yet they often decide whether your main skill produces strong results. One skill that deserves far more attention is clear communication. People often believe communication means speaking confidently. It is much more than that. Good communication means helping another person understand exactly what you mean. It requires choosing simple words, giving enough information, listening carefully, and checking whether the other person understood. You can practice this every day by taking one complicated idea and explaining it in language that a person outside your field could understand. Another overlooked skill is listening. Many people listen while preparing their response. They are waiting for their turn to speak, rather than trying to understand the other person. Serious listening requires attention to the words being used, the problem behind those words, and the emotion affecting the conversation. You can improve this skill during ordinary conversations by asking one follow-up question before giving your opinion. That small change can reveal information you would otherwise miss. Learn to ask better questions too. Questions can save you hours of wrong work. Before starting an important task, ask what result is actually required. Ask what problem you are solving. Ask what information is missing. Ask what could cause the work to fail. People often rush towards solutions before they understand the problem. A strong question can prevent that mistake before it becomes expensive. Decision-making is another skill that quietly separates capable people from busy people. Good decisions do not always produce perfect results because circumstances can change. The goal is to make decisions using the best information available at the time. Before making an important choice, write down the goal, the available facts, the main risks, and the next action. This simple process reduces emotional guessing and forces you to look at the situation more clearly. Learn to manage your attention. Many people believe time management is mainly about making schedules. Your attention is just as important. 2 hours with constant interruptions can produce less useful work than one focused hour. Notice what repeatedly breaks your concentration. Messages, unnecessary meetings, social media, background noise, and constant checking can divide your attention into small pieces. Protecting your attention is a practical skill because every important ability requires periods of focused effort. Another skill people ignore is writing things down. Memory is useful, but it should not be your only system. Write down important decisions, tasks, ideas, questions, and lessons. A simple written record reduces mental pressure and makes it easier to notice patterns. After a difficult day, you may believe several problems happened randomly. Your notes may show that the same issue has appeared 5 times. Once you see the pattern, you can work on the cause instead of repeatedly dealing with the result. Learn how to receive correction without becoming defensive. This skill can speed up your development because other people can sometimes see problems that you cannot see yourself. Ask someone you trust to identify one thing you could improve. Do not argue with the answer immediately. Write it down. Ask for an example if you do not understand. Then decide what action the feedback requires. You do not need to accept every opinion, but you should learn how to examine criticism calmly. Self-correction matters just as much. At the end of a project, do not only ask whether it succeeded. Examine how you worked. Did you prepare properly? Did you spend too much time on low-value tasks? Did you ignore warning signs? Did you communicate clearly? Did you make the same mistake you made last time? These questions turn experience into education. Without review, people can repeat years of experience while learning very little from those years. Another overlooked ability is knowing how to explain what you know. Understanding something privately does not guarantee that you can teach it. Try explaining your skill to a beginner. Avoid complicated terms. Use a simple example. Notice where your explanation becomes unclear. That weak point may reveal a gap in your own understanding. Teaching forces you to organize knowledge instead of simply recognizing information. Learn basic financial awareness, regardless of your profession. You do not need to become an accountant. You should understand what you earn, what you spend, what you owe, and what resources you are building. Poor financial decisions can create pressure that affects every other area of life. A person who earns more but constantly spends more may not become more secure. Understanding basic numbers gives you better choices. Learn to negotiate respectfully. Negotiation is not only for business deals. You negotiate schedules, responsibilities, prices, deadlines, expectations, and agreements throughout life. Good negotiation begins with understanding what each person needs. Before a difficult conversation, identify your desired result and the other person's likely concern. Then look for a solution that addresses the real problem. Clear communication and preparation usually produce better results than aggression. Emotional control is another skill that receives too little practical training. You cannot prevent every emotional reaction, but you can create space between the reaction and your response. Notice what happens in your body when you become angry or anxious. Your breathing may change. Your speech may become faster. Your muscles may tighten. Recognizing these signals early gives you a chance to pause before making a decision you may regret. Use a simple rule during emotionally difficult moments. Delay important decisions until your attention becomes steady enough to examine the facts. A short walk, several slow breaths, or a period of quiet can create enough distance to respond more carefully. This is not about suppressing emotion. It is about refusing to let a temporary emotional state make a permanent decision. Learn basic problem solving as well. When something goes wrong, describe the problem without blaming a person. Then separate the symptoms from the cause. Ask what happened first, what happened next, and what condition allowed the problem to occur. This approach can reveal that the visible mistake was only the final part of a longer chain. Fixing the first cause can prevent the same problem from returning. You should also learn how to make your work easier for the next person. Organize files clearly. Write instructions that another person can follow. Label important information. Keep useful records. Finish tasks in a way that reduces confusion. This may seem like a minor professional habit, but it builds trust. People value someone whose work is reliable and easy to use. Observation is another skill worth developing. Pay attention to what successful people do repeatedly. Do not only notice their results. Watch how they prepare, how they respond to problems, how they communicate, and what they refuse to waste time on. Study behavior rather than image. A person's public success may look simple, but their daily methods often contain the useful lessons. You can turn this into a daily exercise. Choose one person who performs a skill well. Study one action they handle better than you. Write down exactly what they do. Then test that behavior in your own work. Do not copy everything. Improve one specific action and observe the result. This gives you practical education without turning learning into endless observation. Reading is useful, but reading alone can create false confidence. You may recognize an idea and assume you can use it. Test the idea through action. Read about negotiation and conduct a real conversation. Read about writing and edit a real paragraph. Read about leadership and improve a real meeting. Read about concentration and complete a real task without checking your phone. Application tells you whether knowledge has become ability. The people around you also provide an education. Watch how different people handle pressure, money, criticism, time, responsibility, and relationships. Some examples will show you what to develop. Others will show you what to avoid. You do not need to judge people harshly. Simply observe the consequences of repeated behavior. Life gives you many examples of what certain habits produce. Do not try to learn every supporting skill at once. Choose the one that currently limits your performance. If your technical knowledge is strong, but people misunderstand your instructions, improve communication. If you work hard, but miss deadlines, improve planning. If you know what to do, but react badly under pressure, improve emotional control. The best supporting skill is often the one connected to your biggest current weakness. Give that skill deliberate attention for several weeks. Practice it during normal life rather than creating artificial exercises whenever possible. Listen more carefully during conversations. Write clearer instructions at work. Review decisions before acting. Track your attention during important tasks. Ask for useful feedback. These actions turn ordinary situations into training opportunities. There is a practical advantage to learning skills that others ignore. You become more useful. You can solve more kinds of problems. You can work with different people. You can explain ideas more clearly. You can recover from mistakes more effectively. You can make better decisions with less confusion. Your main skill becomes stronger because the supporting abilities allow you to use it properly. The best people are rarely excellent because of one isolated talent. Their strength usually comes from several useful abilities working together. They know how to learn, communicate, decide, organize, listen, adapt, and correct themselves. These skills may not receive much attention because they look ordinary, but ordinary skills performed consistently at a high level create extraordinary results. Look at your own development honestly today. Identify the main ability you are trying to improve. Then ask which smaller skill is currently holding it back. Choose one. Study it. Practice it during a real situation. Record what happened. Make one adjustment tomorrow. Continue until the behavior becomes more natural and reliable. Do not overlook the skills that seem too basic to matter. Clear speech matters. Careful listening matters. Good questions matter. Writing things down matters. Managing attention matters. Staying calm matters. Reviewing mistakes matters. Making decisions carefully matters. These abilities influence how effectively you use almost everything else you know. Your development becomes much stronger once you stop looking only at the obvious skill and start examining the complete set of abilities behind it. Learn what others ignore, practice what others neglect. Improve the small behaviors that quietly affect your results. Over time, those supporting skills can change the quality of your work, the way people experience you, and the level of responsibility you are ready to handle. Chapter 4. Practice longer. When progress feels uncomfortable. Progress becomes more valuable when the work stops feeling easy. The early stage of learning often feels rewarding because improvement comes quickly and mistakes are easy to notice. Then the pace changes. You practice, and the result seems almost the same. You repeat an exercise and still struggle with it. Your attention becomes tired. You begin wondering whether your effort is producing anything at all. This is the stage where serious learners develop a different habit. They stop using comfort as a measurement of progress and start using evidence. There is an important difference between useful discomfort and pointless exhaustion. You should not practice longer simply to prove that you can suffer. More hours do not automatically create better ability. The purpose of longer practice is to spend enough time with a difficult problem that your mind has a chance to understand it. Good practice has a clear target. It challenges your current ability without becoming so difficult that you cannot learn from the attempt. A simple example can make this clear. A person learning public speaking may be comfortable giving a short explanation to a familiar group. To improve, they might need to practice speaking without notes, organize ideas faster, or answer unexpected questions. The difficult part is not speaking for a longer period. The useful challenge is working on the specific weakness that appears during speaking. Longer practice becomes valuable because it gives more opportunities to face that weakness and correct it. The same principle applies to writing. A beginner may feel successful after writing a short paragraph because the ideas come easily. Later, the real work begins. The writer has to remove unnecessary words, improve the order of ideas, make explanations clearer, and notice where the reader could become confused. Editing can feel slow because every sentence requires attention, yet that uncomfortable process often produces more improvement than simply writing more pages. Do not leave the moment a task becomes difficult simply because the feeling is unpleasant. First, identify what the discomfort is telling you. Maybe you are tired. Maybe the task is too advanced. Maybe you have reached a weakness that needs direct practice. Maybe you are distracted. Each situation requires a different response. Serious improvement depends on knowing the difference. Your body and mind give useful signals during practice. You may notice your attention becoming less stable. You may start making careless mistakes. You may read the same sentence several times without understanding it. You may feel frustrated because the result is not matching the effort. These signals do not always mean you should stop. They mean you should inspect the quality of your practice. Use short breaks before your attention completely collapses. A break is not wasted time when it helps you return with better concentration. Stand up. Walk for a few minutes. Drink some water. Look away from the work. Let your mind settle. Then return with one clear task. The goal is to protect useful practice rather than collect hours that contain little learning. There is also a point where repetition stops helping. You can practice a mistake for hours and become more comfortable with the mistake. This happens because repetition without correction does not guarantee improvement. After several attempts, stop and compare your performance with the standard you want. Find one difference. Change one part of your method. Then attempt the task again. That adjustment is what makes the next repetition more valuable. Suppose you are learning to type faster and keep making errors with certain keys. Typing for another hour without examining the errors may only make the same pattern stronger. A better approach is to identify the exact letters causing trouble. Slow down, practice those combinations accurately, and increase speed gradually. The uncomfortable part is being slower than you want. The useful part is training accuracy before speed. This principle applies to almost every serious skill. Accuracy usually needs attention before speed. Understanding should come before trying to handle a large volume of work. A person who rushes through practice can become efficient at producing weak results. Someone who learns to perform the task correctly can gradually increase speed without sacrificing quality. Another reason people stop too early is that they expect visible progress after every session. Human learning does not always work that way. Some sessions mainly expose weaknesses. Some help you understand a new idea. Some improve consistency. Some prevent an old mistake from returning. The change may not be obvious immediately, but the experience still adds useful information. Keep a record of your performance across weeks, rather than judging yourself after one difficult afternoon. Compare examples from earlier and later periods. Look at quality, accuracy, speed, confidence, and the difficulty of the tasks you can now handle. A person may feel stuck while actually performing work that would have been impossible several months earlier. You should also increase difficulty gradually. Staying at the same level forever can create comfort without development. Once a task becomes reliable, add one new challenge. Increase the complexity. Reduce the amount of help you use. Add a time limit. Work with unfamiliar conditions. Handle a more difficult example. These changes force your ability to adapt. Do not increase every difficulty at once. If you make the task harder, reduce another demand. For example, if you are learning to speak without notes, keep the topic familiar at first. If you are learning to write under time pressure, use a subject you understand well. This allows you to train one difficult factor without overwhelming the entire learning process. There is a useful rule for deciding whether practice is challenging at the right level. You should make mistakes, but you should also understand why they happened. If you succeed every time without paying attention, the task may be too easy. If you fail repeatedly without knowing what to change, the task may be too difficult. The useful zone is where errors give you information and correction is possible. This is why feedback becomes increasingly important as you improve. At the beginning, obvious mistakes are easy to see. Later, the differences become smaller. A beginner speaker may need to learn not to forget the main point. An experienced speaker may need to improve pacing, word choice, or the order of an explanation. The better you become, the more precise your feedback needs to be. Ask for specific feedback rather than general praise. Do not ask someone whether your work is good. Ask what part was unclear. Ask where attention dropped. Ask what could be removed. Ask which part felt strongest. Ask what would make the result more useful. Specific questions produce information you can act on. You also need to learn how to give yourself honest feedback. Do not use harsh criticism as proof that you are serious. Accuracy is more useful than self-punishment. Say what actually happened. The explanation was unclear. The exercise was incomplete. The timing was too fast. The calculation contained 3 errors. The preparation was not enough. Once the problem is stated clearly, you can work on it without turning the mistake into a judgment about your worth. Long practice sessions can also reveal emotional habits. Some people become impatient when progress slows. Others start looking for easier tasks. Some begin comparing themselves with people who are already far ahead. Others decide that they are not talented enough. Notice these reactions because they can become patterns. Your response to difficulty is part of the skill you are developing. A useful exercise is to stay with one difficult task for an additional 10 minutes after the first urge to quit appears. Do not use those 10 minutes to force yourself through poor quality work. Use them to investigate the problem. Break it into smaller pieces. Try a different method. Review an example. Write down the exact point of confusion. Ask what information is missing. This teaches you to respond to difficulty with problem solving instead of immediate escape. There is another important lesson about boredom. Not every difficult practice session feels intense. Sometimes the challenge is simply staying attentive to a basic task that you have repeated many times. Boredom can make you careless. You begin rushing because you believe you already know the material. That is when small errors can enter your work. Staying precise during familiar tasks is a valuable professional habit. You can make repetitive practice more useful by changing what you observe. During one session, focus on accuracy. During another, watch your speed. On another day, study your technique. Later, examine your consistency. The task may remain similar while your attention changes. This prevents practice from becoming automatic and gives you different information about your performance. Take physical learning seriously as well. Rest affects performance. Lack of sleep can reduce attention, memory, and decision quality. A tired person may spend more time practicing while learning less. Longer practice should not become an excuse to ignore recovery. The purpose is to improve your ability, not simply increase the number of hours you can remain at a desk. Build a schedule that includes demanding sessions and lighter sessions. A demanding day might involve solving difficult problems or producing work without assistance. A lighter day might involve reviewing notes, correcting old mistakes, or studying examples. This allows you to continue developing without expecting maximum intensity every day. Your environment can also influence how long you can work effectively. Noise, constant notifications, uncomfortable seating, poor lighting, and interruptions all consume attention. Remove what you can control. A serious practice session should make it easier to concentrate. You do not need an expensive setup. You need fewer unnecessary distractions. Do not compare your practice hours with someone else's. People have different responsibilities. energy levels, experience, and schedules. The useful question is whether your current practice is producing better performance. A person with one focused hour may progress more than someone spending 4 distracted hours. Quality should guide your decisions. There will be days when you genuinely need to stop. Continuing through severe exhaustion may produce poor work and reinforce bad habits. The goal is not endless effort. The goal is intelligent effort. Learn to recognize the difference between temporary resistance and genuine fatigue. Temporary resistance can often be handled by changing the task or taking a short break. Genuine fatigue may require proper rest. A strong learner does not ask only how long they practiced. They ask what changed because of the practice. That question keeps the process connected to results. If 2 hours produced no improvement, investigate why. Perhaps the task was too easy. Perhaps the method was wrong. Perhaps you needed feedback. Perhaps you were too tired. The answer tells you what to change. Use this approach in your next session. Choose one ability that is currently difficult. Define the exact part you want to improve. Work on it for a focused period. Notice the first point where your attention or confidence drops. Do not immediately escape. Investigate the problem. Take a short break if needed. Return and test a different approach. Record what happened. Over time, this changes your relationship with difficult work. You become less likely to interpret struggle as proof that you cannot improve. You begin treating difficulty as information. A hard task can show you where your knowledge ends. A repeated mistake can reveal a missing basic skill. Slow performance can show that your process needs adjustment. Frustration can point toward an expectation that needs to become more realistic. The people who become highly capable learn to stay engaged during this stage. They do not confuse discomfort with failure. They also do not glorify exhaustion. They study the problem, adjust their practice, protect their attention, and continue long enough to understand what the difficulty is teaching them. Give yourself enough time to work beyond the easy part. Stay precise when the task becomes boring. Slow down when accuracy drops. Ask for useful feedback when your own view is limited. Increase difficulty only after the current level becomes stable. Rest when your attention is genuinely exhausted. Then return with a clearer method. Your ability grows each time you meet a difficult part of the work and respond intelligently. The important change is not simply that you can practice longer. It is that you learn how to use those extra minutes well. You become more patient with the learning process, more honest about your weaknesses, and more skilled at turning difficult practice into real improvement. Chapter 5. Notice what holds you back daily. Most people know what they want to improve, but rarely study what keeps stopping them. They blame a lack of time, low confidence, difficult circumstances, or other people, yet the real obstacle is often hidden inside ordinary daily behavior. A person may lose an hour checking a phone without noticing it. Another may delay important work because starting feels uncomfortable. Someone else may avoid asking for help because they fear looking inexperienced. These small patterns can quietly control a person's progress for years. Improvement becomes much easier once you can identify the behavior that repeatedly reduces your results. Do not begin by judging yourself. Begin by observing yourself. Your goal is not to prove that you are disciplined or undisciplined. Your goal is to discover what actually happens during your day. Accurate observation gives you something practical to change. Start with one simple exercise. For 3 days, record where your time goes. Do not create an ideal schedule. Record what actually happens. Write down when you begin important work, when you stop, what interrupts you, how long you spend on your phone, how often you switch tasks, and what work you postpone. The results may be uncomfortable, but useful information is often uncomfortable before it becomes helpful. Pay special attention to the moments when you say, "I will do it later." That sentence can reveal more than a complicated productivity system. Look at what you postpone and what you do instead. Perhaps you avoid writing and start cleaning your workspace. Maybe you delay studying and begin watching short videos. Maybe you avoid a difficult conversation and spend time organizing less important tasks. The replacement behavior shows you what you are using to escape the original task. Procrastination is often treated as laziness, but the cause can be more specific. Sometimes people delay because the task is unclear. Sometimes they expect themselves to produce excellent work immediately. Sometimes they do not know how to begin. Sometimes the task carries emotional discomfort. The solution depends on the reason. Calling yourself lazy does not identify the reason, so it does not provide a useful solution. Take a task you have been avoiding and reduce it to the first physical action. Do not write, "Finish the project." Write, "Open the file," and write the first 3 points. Do not write, "Study for the exam." Write, "Read the first 5 pages," and record 3 important facts. A clear first action reduces uncertainty and makes beginning easier. Another common obstacle is constant switching. You may start one task, check a message, return to the task, open another page, answer someone, and then wonder why your work takes so long. Each interruption may seem small, but the repeated change of attention creates hidden costs. Your mind needs time to return to the original problem. Protecting your attention is not about being unavailable all day. It is about creating specific periods where important work is allowed to remain uninterrupted. Notice what happens immediately before you lose focus. Is your phone nearby? Are notifications active? Are you working without a clear target? Are you tired? Are you confused about the next step? Do not simply write, "I got distracted." Find the trigger. Once you know the trigger, you can change the environment or the process. Your physical surroundings can also hold you back. A cluttered desk may not directly cause failure, but unnecessary objects can create extra visual information. A television playing nearby can pull your attention away. A phone placed beside your hand creates an easy opportunity to check something. A workspace designed around convenience rather than concentration can make good behavior harder. Make the useful action easier and the distracting action harder. Keep your notebook open to the page where you will begin. Put the phone in another room during focused work. Prepare the materials before you need them. Remove unnecessary applications from your work device if they repeatedly interrupt you. These changes are simple, but they reduce the number of decisions you must make. Another serious obstacle is unclear priorities. Some people work hard all day, but still finish the day feeling unsuccessful because they spent their best attention on low-value activities. They answer messages, attend unnecessary meetings, organize files, and complete easy tasks because those activities provide immediate satisfaction. Important work often feels harder because it requires deeper thought. At the beginning of each day, identify the one task that would make the day meaningfully productive. Complete that task before giving too much attention to activities that can wait. This does not mean ignoring responsibilities. It means protecting your most valuable attention for work that actually moves your life forward. Your standards can also become an obstacle. High standards are useful when they push you toward quality. They become harmful when they prevent you from starting. A person may spend hours planning the perfect project because producing an imperfect first version feels uncomfortable. The solution is to separate creation from correction. Produce a rough first version, then improve it. You cannot edit work that does not exist. Notice how often you reject your own attempts before giving them enough time. You may write one paragraph and decide you are not a good writer. You may practice a new skill for 2 weeks and decide you have no talent. You may speak once in front of people and decide public speaking is not for you. One poor performance is information about that performance. It is not enough evidence to make a permanent judgment about your ability. Comparison can create another daily limitation. Looking at someone else's finished result can make your own early work feel weak. You see their confidence but not their years of practice. You see the final product but not the mistakes that came before it. Comparison becomes useful only when you use it to study behavior. Ask what they learned, what habits they built, and what standards they follow. Do not use their progress as evidence against yourself. Fear of judgment is another hidden obstacle. You may avoid sharing your work because someone might criticize it. You may avoid asking questions because you do not want to appear inexperienced. You may stay silent in meetings even though you have useful information. This can limit learning because feedback requires exposure. You cannot receive useful correction from work that nobody is allowed to see. Start with controlled exposure. Share your work with one trustworthy person. Ask for one specific piece of feedback. Use the response to improve. Then gradually increase the level of exposure. This teaches you that criticism can be information rather than a personal attack. Another obstacle is saying yes too often. Every commitment uses some amount of time and attention. Agreeing to everything can leave little space for your most important goals. Before accepting a new responsibility, ask whether it supports something important or simply creates another obligation. You do not need to reject people harshly. A clear and respectful answer can protect your time. Your daily energy also deserves attention. You may have enough hours, but not enough useful energy at certain times. Notice when you naturally concentrate well and when your attention becomes weak. Schedule demanding tasks during your stronger periods whenever possible. Use lower energy periods for routine activities. This is not about following a perfect schedule. It is about understanding how your own performance changes throughout the day. Sleep, food, movement, and recovery also affect how well you think and work. A person who regularly sleeps too little may interpret poor concentration as a character problem. Sometimes the problem is physical exhaustion. Basic care does not replace discipline. It supports your ability to use discipline effectively. Pay attention to emotional triggers too. Certain tasks may produce frustration, embarrassment, fear, or boredom before you even begin. Notice the feeling without immediately obeying it. Then identify the behavior that follows. Do you leave the task? Do you become distracted? Do you become argumentative? after you start making excuses. The emotional trigger and the behavior that follows it are two separate things. You may not control the first instantly, but you can train the second. A useful evening exercise is to ask yourself 3 practical questions. What slowed me down today? What caused it? What will I change tomorrow? Keep the answers short. Do not turn the exercise into self-criticism. You are collecting information for the next day. Patterns matter more than isolated events. Missing one workout is not the same as repeatedly avoiding exercise whenever you feel tired. Forgetting one deadline is different from consistently underestimating how long your work takes. Checking your phone once is different from reaching for it every time a task becomes difficult. Look for repeated behavior, because repeated behavior is where change produces the greatest return. You can also ask another person what they notice about you. Choose someone who knows your work well and can speak honestly. Ask what habit seems to limit your effectiveness. Listen without immediately defending yourself. You may discover something you cannot see because you are too close to your own behavior. The answer may be surprisingly ordinary. Perhaps you talk too much before understanding the problem. Perhaps you start too many projects. Perhaps you avoid numbers. Perhaps you do not prepare before meetings. Perhaps you underestimate small tasks. Perhaps you make decisions while emotionally upset. The important part is not how impressive the weakness sounds. The important part is whether it repeatedly affects your results. Once you identify one obstacle, do not try to change your entire personality. Change one behavior connected to the problem. If you constantly check your phone, create phone-free work periods. If you delay difficult tasks, schedule the first 10 minutes before easier activities. If you make repeated mistakes because you rush, add a review step before submitting work. Specific problems need specific responses. Give the change enough time to produce evidence. One day can show whether the idea is practical, but several weeks can show whether it is becoming a habit. Track the result without obsessing over it. Did you complete more important work? Did your errors decrease? Did conversations improve? Did you feel less rushed? Did you have more time for meaningful activities? These results tell you whether the adjustment is worth keeping. There will be obstacles you cannot remove completely. You may have family responsibilities, demanding work, financial pressure, or unpredictable events. The goal is not to create a life without difficulty. The goal is to understand which parts you can control and improve your response to the parts you cannot. This distinction protects your energy. You cannot control every interruption, but you can decide how quickly you return to important work. You cannot control every person's opinion, but you can decide whether useful criticism changes your behavior. You cannot control every difficult day, but you can decide whether one difficult day becomes an excuse to abandon your routine. Your daily life contains evidence about what is helping you and what is holding you back. Pay attention to it. Notice what happens before you lose focus. Notice what you avoid. Notice which commitments drain your attention. Notice which environments make good work easier. Notice which emotions repeatedly lead to poor decisions. These observations give you a practical map of your current behavior. Do not be discouraged by what you discover. Seeing a weakness clearly is useful because hidden problems are difficult to solve. Once a pattern becomes visible, you can test a different response. You can remove a distraction, change a schedule, ask for help, improve a process, Set a boundary. Practice a difficult behavior. Small corrections can change the direction of an ordinary day. Start tomorrow with one observation. Choose the behavior that has cost you the most time or progress recently. Watch for the exact moment it appears. Identify what happens immediately before it. Then, interrupt the pattern with one specific action. Do not expect yourself to become completely different in one day. Train the new response repeatedly until it becomes easier. Your ability to improve depends partly on your willingness to see yourself accurately. You cannot correct what you refuse to notice. You cannot change a habit that remains invisible to you. You cannot build better results while protecting every behavior that creates your current results. Pay attention to the small things that happen every day. Your future performance is being shaped by those ordinary choices. Notice them clearly. Question them honestly. Change the ones that no longer serve your goals. Then give yourself enough time to prove through action that a better way is possible. Chapter 6. Make better choices when nobody is watching. The quality of your life is shaped by many decisions that receive no attention from other people. The meal you choose when nobody is around matters. The hour you spend learning instead of scrolling matters. The promise you keep after everyone has forgotten about it matters. Your private decisions slowly determine what you can do in public. This is why becoming excellent requires more than performing well when people are watching. You must learn to make sound choices even when there is no praise, pressure, or immediate reward. A private decision is often more revealing than a public decision. In public, you may work hard because someone expects a result. You may arrive on time because your manager is watching. You may prepare carefully because other people will judge your performance. Alone, the external pressure disappears. What remains is your personal standard. That moment gives you useful information about what you truly value. Start by noticing the small choices you make without thinking. You wake up and reach for your phone. You feel tired and decide to skip the task you promised to complete. You notice a mistake and consider leaving it because nobody may notice. You have extra money and spend it without checking your budget. You receive a message that needs an honest response and choose to ignore it. None of these decisions looks important by itself, but repeated choices create patterns. One practical way to improve private decision-making is to create a personal standard before temptation appears. Decide in advance what you will do in situations that repeatedly cause problems. If you want to protect your study time, choose the hours when your phone stays away. If you want to control unnecessary spending, decide which purchases require a waiting period. If you want to become more reliable, decide that you will communicate early whenever you know a deadline may be missed. Decisions made in advance reduce the need to negotiate with yourself later. Your environment can also influence private choices more than you realize. A person who keeps distracting apps open is constantly asking for self-control. A person who prepares healthy food before becoming hungry has made the better choice easier. Someone who keeps a book beside the bed has reduced the effort required to read. Someone who leaves work materials ready for the morning has made starting easier. Good decisions become more consistent when the surroundings support them. This does not mean removing every temptation from life. That would be unrealistic. It means understanding which situations repeatedly weaken your judgment. You may know that you waste time late at night. You may know that certain conversations pull you into unnecessary arguments. You may know that shopping websites make you spend money you plan to save. Awareness allows you to create a practical boundary before the pattern repeats. Pay attention to the excuse that appears just before a poor decision. The words may sound reasonable. You might tell yourself that 5 minutes of scrolling will not matter. You might say that one skipped practice session will not change anything. You might decide that a small dishonest answer is harmless. The danger is not always the single choice. The danger is teaching yourself that your own standards can be changed whenever something becomes inconvenient. A stronger approach is to ask what the choice teaches you. Skipping one practice session does not destroy your ability, but repeatedly breaking promises to yourself can teach you that your plans are optional. Spending a small amount of money does not create financial trouble by itself. Repeatedly ignoring your own limits can make careless spending normal. The deeper result of a choice is often the habit it strengthens. This is why private discipline matters. You are not only completing a task, you are training a pattern of behavior. Every time you keep a reasonable promise, you make it easier to keep similar promises later. Every time you avoid responsibility, avoidance becomes easier too. Your repeated choices shape what feels normal. Use small promises rather than dramatic ones. Do not promise yourself that you will completely change your life tomorrow. Promise that you will spend 20 focused minutes on the skill you care about. Promise that you will review your expenses before making a non-essential purchase. Promise that you will prepare tomorrow's important task before going to sleep. Small commitments give you repeated opportunities to practice reliability. You should also learn to separate what is easy from what is valuable. Easy choices often provide an immediate reward. Difficult choices may provide a benefit later. Checking entertainment is easy. Studying can feel demanding. Spending money can provide immediate pleasure. Saving requires patience. Avoiding a difficult conversation can feel comfortable. Addressing the issue can protect a relationship or solve a problem. Better choices often require you to accept a short period of discomfort for a more useful result. This does not mean choosing the hardest option every time. Good judgment is not the same as constant struggle. Sometimes rest is the right decision. Sometimes spending money on something useful is reasonable. Sometimes changing your plan is wise. The important skill is deciding deliberately rather than automatically. Before an important private choice, ask 3 things. What result do I want? What will this decision make easier tomorrow? What problem could this decision create later? These questions slow down automatic behavior without making every decision complicated. They help you look beyond the immediate feeling. Learn to think about delayed results. Some choices feel good now and create problems later. Other choices feel inconvenient now and create benefits later. A person who studies instead of watching entertainment may not feel an immediate difference. A person who saves money may not receive applause. A person who prepares for tomorrow may feel no excitement while doing it. The value becomes visible later through improved ability, lower stress, or better options. You should also protect your standards during low-energy periods. Many people make good plans when they feel strong and abandon them when they are tired. That is why your routine should have a realistic minimum. You may not be able to give your best effort every day, but you can often complete a smaller version of the important behavior. This keeps your standard alive without demanding perfect performance. Another important private choice is what information you allow into your mind. Nobody may know what you watch, read, or listen to during your free time. Yet repeated exposure affects what you think about. If most of your free attention goes toward outrage, comparison, gossip, or shallow entertainment, those subjects can occupy more of your mental space. Choose information that helps you understand your work, your responsibilities, and the world around you. You do not need to avoid entertainment. Rest is useful. Enjoyment is part of a healthy life. The issue is control. Choose your entertainment, rather than allowing every free moment to be filled automatically. Decide how much time you want to spend. Stop when the planned time ends. This simple boundary can return a surprising amount of attention to your life. Private choices also include how you speak about other people. It is easy to criticize someone when they are not present. It can feel harmless because they cannot hear you. But repeated negative talk can become a habit of judgment. A better practice is to discuss the actual problem rather than attacking the person's character. This improves your thinking and often improves your relationships. Another test of character is what you do after making a mistake. Nobody may know that you made it. You could hide it and hope the problem disappears, or you could correct it. Taking responsibility privately can prevent a small problem from becoming a larger one. If you entered the wrong number, fix it. If you gave someone incorrect information, correct it. If you damage something, repair or replace it. Responsibility is strongest when there is no audience. The same principle applies to promises. People sometimes keep commitments only when breaking them would damage their reputation. A stronger standard is to respect your word, even when there is no immediate consequence. Before making a promise, consider whether you can actually keep it. If you cannot, communicate honestly rather than making a commitment simply to avoid an uncomfortable conversation. Your private standards should also include how you treat your time. Nobody may complain if you waste an evening. Nobody may know that you spent 2 hours avoiding an important task, but you know, the goal is not to feel guilty about every unproductive moment. Everyone needs rest and unplanned time. The goal is to recognize the difference between chosen rest and repeated avoidance. Try keeping a private record of one important behavior for 2 weeks. Choose something measurable. Record whether you practiced, whether you spent according to your plan, whether you completed your key task, or whether you kept your agreed schedule. Do not show the record to anyone. The purpose is to see your behavior without performing for an audience. This exercise can be revealing because there is no reason to exaggerate the results. You are not trying to impress anyone. You are collecting evidence about yourself. Maybe your consistency is better than you expected. Maybe there are clear weak points. Either result is useful. Accurate information gives you a starting point for improvement. You should also examine how you respond to small opportunities to do the right thing. Put something back where it belongs. Clean up after yourself. Finish the task properly. Answer the message you have been avoiding. Admit that you do not know something. Give credit to someone who helped you. These actions may never appear on a resume, but they build habits of responsibility. There is a quiet strength in knowing that your behavior does not depend entirely on supervision. A person who works carefully only when monitored remains dependent on external pressure. A person who has learned to maintain a reasonable standard without supervision becomes more reliable. Employers trust reliable people. Teams depend on reliable people. Families benefit from reliable people. More importantly, you become able to trust your own decisions. Do not confuse this with perfection. You will make poor choices. You will waste time. You will lose focus. You will sometimes choose comfort. The useful response is to correct the pattern quickly, rather than turning one mistake into a reason to stop trying. Look at what happened, identify the trigger, change one part of the system, continue. The next time you are alone and face a small decision, pause for a moment. Ask whether the choice supports the person you are trying to become. Ask whether you would make the same decision if someone you respected was standing beside you. Then remember that someone does not need to be present for the choice to matter. Your private behavior is where your standards become real. The quiet practice session, the honest correction, the controlled purchase, the prepared task, the respectful conversation, and the decision to stop wasting time all contribute to your development. These actions may never receive attention, but they shape the person who eventually walks into visible opportunities. Choose one private behavior that needs improvement today. Make the standard clear. Change the environment if necessary. Remove one unnecessary temptation. Keep a small promise. Correct one mistake without waiting for recognition. Repeat the behavior tomorrow. Let your actions become evidence that you can depend on yourself. The strongest form of personal progress does not require an audience. It happens during ordinary moments when nobody is checking, nobody is praising you, and nobody is demanding anything from you. Those moments give you the freedom to choose your standard. Use that freedom carefully, because the choices you make in private eventually become the abilities and character you bring into every visible part of your life. Chapter 7. Stay hungry after you become good. Becoming good at something creates a new problem that beginners rarely understand. The work that once felt difficult starts feeling familiar. People notice your ability. Compliments arrive. Results become easier. You begin receiving fewer reasons to question your methods. This is the point where many people stop developing. They are no longer struggling enough to feel the need to change, so their progress slows while their confidence remains high. Being good is useful, but it can also become comfortable. Comfort is not always a problem. It becomes a problem when it makes you less curious. A person who believes they already know enough stops looking carefully. They stop asking why something works. They stop studying new approaches. They may continue doing the same things successfully while the demands around them change. Long-term excellence requires a willingness to remain a student even after other people begin calling you skilled. One practical way to stay hungry is to keep raising the quality of the questions you ask. Beginners often ask how to complete a task. Skilled people can ask why the task should be done that way. They can ask what could make the result clearer, faster, safer, more useful, or more reliable. Better questions create new areas for improvement because they force you to examine assumptions that once seemed obvious. Take a skill you already perform well. Write down what you currently consider your normal standard. Then ask what would make that standard significantly better. A strong writer might ask how to make an explanation easier for a busy reader to understand. A good salesperson might ask how to identify a customer's real concern earlier. A capable manager might ask how to make decisions clearer for the team. Improvement begins when your attention moves beyond basic competence. Do not depend on praise to measure your development. Praise tells you that something worked for someone at a particular moment. It does not prove that your methods are still the best available. A person can receive compliments for years while quietly becoming outdated. Keep looking at results, changing conditions, and new information. External approval can be pleasant, but evidence should guide your standards. One useful practice is to regularly compare your current work with excellent work outside your immediate environment. Do not use comparison to feel inferior. Use it to identify differences. Notice the level of detail. Observe the clarity. Study the speed. Examine the preparation. Look at how problems are handled. Ask what those people are doing that you have not yet learned. Then choose one difference that matters. Do not copy everything. Test one improvement. This keeps your development focused while preventing complacency. You may discover that a small change in preparation produces a major improvement in the final result. You may find a better way to organize information. You may learn a faster method. You may realize that a habit you considered necessary is actually slowing you down. Stay curious about your own methods. Ask yourself what you are doing simply because you have always done it. Familiar routines can survive long after they stop being useful. A person may use the same software, process, schedule, sales method, study technique, or communication style for years without testing alternatives. Familiarity can create false confidence. A method should remain because it works, not merely because it is familiar. Run small experiments. Change one part of your process and observe the result. If you normally prepare for a task at night, try preparing in the morning for 1 week. If you normally study by reading notes repeatedly, test yourself without looking at the answers. If you normally speak without preparation, spend 10 minutes organizing your main points first. Controlled experiments give you information without requiring you to rebuild your entire system. A strong learner also accepts that expertise has limits. Knowing a lot about one subject does not mean knowing everything about related subjects. You may be excellent at your technical work, but weak at explaining it. You may understand strategy, but struggle with implementation. You may be creative, but disorganized. You may have strong knowledge, but poor listening habits. Do not let success in one area convince you that every weakness deserves to remain untouched. Look for the next skill that would increase the value of your current ability. A designer who learns to communicate with clients becomes more effective. A technical expert who learns to teach becomes more useful. A manager who learns financial basics makes better decisions. A writer who learns research methods can produce stronger work. The next level often comes from combining abilities rather than simply adding more information about the same subject. There is another danger after becoming good. You may start protecting your reputation instead of improving your ability. You become careful about trying unfamiliar methods because failure might make you look less competent. This can create a strange situation where the desire to appear skilled prevents you from learning. You need enough confidence to be willing to look inexperienced during practice. Try entering situations where you are not the strongest person in the room. Attend a serious workshop. Study under someone with more experience. Join a group where people have different abilities. Ask questions that reveal what you do not understand. Being around stronger performers can expose gaps that ordinary routines hide. Do not worry about being the smartest person in every conversation. Your goal is to increase your understanding. Listen to people who challenge your assumptions. Ask them how they reached their conclusions. Find out what evidence they use. You do not have to agree with everything. You only need to remain open enough to learn. Another way to stay hungry is to teach what you know. Teaching can reveal weaknesses that private practice does not show. Someone may understand a process but struggle to explain why each step matters. Another person may know the answer but cannot explain it in simple language. Teaching forces you to organize your knowledge and notice gaps. Teach one small idea to someone who is genuinely interested. Ask them where the explanation becomes confusing. Their questions can show you which parts of your understanding are incomplete. This gives you a practical reason to keep studying, even after you have become competent. Keep challenging your standards of quality. Ask whether the work is merely acceptable or genuinely useful. A report can be accurate but difficult to read. A presentation can contain good information but fail to hold attention. A product can function correctly but create unnecessary frustration for the user. Excellence often comes from noticing the small problems that others have learned to tolerate. This is why details matter more as you improve. Beginners need to learn the basic structure. Skilled people need to refine execution. They notice small delays, unclear wording, weak transitions, unnecessary steps, inconsistent quality, and preventable mistakes. These details may seem minor, but they often separate reliable performance from exceptional performance. Keep a record of problems that repeatedly appear in your work. Do not simply fix each one and forget it. Write down the pattern. After several weeks, review the list. You may find that 3 or 4 issues account for most of your frustration. Those recurring issues deserve focused attention. Solving them can produce more improvement than learning another 100 unrelated facts. You should also stay physically and mentally prepared to learn. Sleep, movement, recovery, and quiet time affect your ability to notice details. A tired mind often chooses familiar solutions because they require less effort. Rest can therefore support learning by restoring your ability to examine problems carefully. Staying hungry does not mean staying exhausted. Do not confuse ambition with constant dissatisfaction. You can appreciate how far you have come while still wanting to improve. Healthy ambition says that your current ability is valuable and that there is more to learn. Unhealthy dissatisfaction says that nothing you do is enough. The first encourages growth. The second can destroy enjoyment and confidence. A useful habit is to review your progress every few months. Look at old work, compare it with current work, identify what improved, then identify what now seems weak. This second part matters. As your ability increases, your standards should become more precise. You may notice problems today that you were not skilled enough to recognize a year ago. That is evidence of development. Set new challenges based on your current level rather than your old level. If you have become comfortable with basic tasks, move toward more complex ones. If you can perform alone, practice collaborating. If you can solve familiar problems, work on unfamiliar ones. If you can produce good results with plenty of time, learn to maintain quality under reasonable time limits. Keep your curiosity active outside your main field as well. Learning from another area can improve how you approach your own work. A business person can learn from psychology. A writer can learn from design. A teacher can learn from negotiation. A manager can learn from sports training. You do not need to become an expert in every subject. You can borrow useful ways of thinking. Protect yourself from the feeling that you have arrived. There is no permanent level of skill where further learning becomes unnecessary. Industries change, tools change, people change. Your responsibilities change. Even if the environment stays the same, your own goals may become larger. Staying capable requires continued adjustment. Tomorrow, choose one part of your work that has become automatic. Study it closely. Ask whether there is a better way. Look for an example from someone more skilled. Test one change. Record the result. This simple process keeps your development active without requiring dramatic changes. You can also create a personal rule that every month you will improve one part of your process. It might be preparation, communication, speed, accuracy, organization, or quality control. Choose one area and work on it deliberately. At the end of the month, keep the improvement if it works, and select another area. This gives your development a steady direction. Stay willing to hear that something you do well can still be improved. That sentence may sound simple, but accepting it requires maturity. Your current success is not an insult to your future potential. Improving something does not mean the old version was worthless. It means you have learned enough to see another opportunity. The best people remain interested in details long after others stop paying attention. They keep asking how to make useful work better. They study their mistakes. They seek stronger examples. They test new methods. They accept correction. They enter unfamiliar situations. They continue learning because competence is not the finish line. Stay interested after the compliments arrive. Stay curious after the first success. Stay willing to practice after people start calling you talented. Let your current ability give you confidence to attempt harder work rather than permission to stop learning. Your next level will require something your current level did not. Find out what that is. Study it carefully. Practice it patiently. Test your methods. Keep your standards clear. Let your ability grow beyond what you already know how to do. The moment you become good at something is not the moment to stop learning. It is the moment you can begin asking more difficult questions, taking on more demanding problems, and developing the judgment that separates temporary success from lasting excellence. Chapter 8. Ask better questions and learn faster. The speed of your learning depends heavily on the quality of the questions you ask. A person can spend hours reading, watching lessons, and listening to experts while learning very little because the questions guiding that effort are too vague. Good learners do something different. They do not simply collect answers. They learn how to identify what they do not understand, separate useful information from noise, and ask questions that lead directly to better action. A weak question often creates a weak learning process. Asking, "How can I get better?" is too broad to guide serious practice. Asking, "Which part of my presentation loses people's attention?" gives you something specific to investigate. Asking, "What should I study?" is unclear. Asking, "What skill is causing most of my mistakes right now?" creates a direction. The quality of the question determines the quality of the search that follows. Start by noticing the questions you naturally ask when something goes wrong. Many people immediately ask, "Who is responsible?" That question can create blame without creating understanding. Ask what happened instead, then ask what caused it, then ask what could prevent it next time. These questions move your attention from emotion toward useful information. Suppose you miss an important deadline. Saying, "Why am I so bad at managing time?" creates a judgment about yourself. A better investigation asks when the delay started, which part took longer than expected, what information was missing, and which task consumed time without producing much value. The second approach gives you several possible changes. You can estimate better, prepare earlier, remove distractions, or divide the project into smaller stages. Ask questions that expose the process rather than only examining the result. A result tells you what happened. The process helps you understand why. Two people can receive the same result while using completely different methods. One may have succeeded through careful preparation. Another may have succeeded through luck. If you only study the result, you may copy the wrong lesson. Whenever you see someone performing a skill well, ask how they reached that level. What did they practice first? What mistakes did they make repeatedly? What did they stop doing? How did they know they were improving? What do they pay attention to that beginners usually miss? These questions reveal useful details that simple admiration cannot provide. You should also learn to ask questions before you begin. Before starting a project, ask what a successful result should look like. Ask who will use the result. Ask what problem needs to be solved. Ask what limitations exist. Ask what information is missing. A few minutes of questioning can prevent hours of work in the wrong direction. This is especially important because people often become busy before becoming clear. They start collecting information without knowing what they need. They read articles, watch videos, save documents and take notes. Their folder becomes full while their understanding remains weak. Start with the problem, then search for information that helps solve it. Learn to separate information from knowledge. Information is something you can read or hear. Knowledge becomes more useful when you understand how it works and can apply it. A person can memorize 10 sales techniques without knowing which one fits a specific customer. Someone can read about public speaking without knowing how to control their pace. Application reveals whether information has become usable understanding. After learning something new, ask yourself how you would use it today. If you cannot answer, the idea may still be too vague. Turn it into an action. If you learn a method for improving memory, test it with real material. If you learn a writing principle, apply it to a paragraph. If you learn a negotiation idea, use it in an appropriate conversation. Action creates feedback, and feedback creates deeper learning. One of the fastest ways to learn is to find the exact point where your understanding stops. Do not say, "I do not understand this." Identify the specific part. Maybe you understand the purpose, but not the steps. Maybe you understand the steps, but not when to use them. Maybe you understand an example, but cannot create your own. Each gap requires a different explanation. Try explaining the subject in simple language. Speak as though you are teaching someone who has never studied it. You will quickly notice where your knowledge becomes uncertain. That is the part you should investigate. This method is useful because recognition can create a false feeling of understanding. You may understand something while reading it, but struggle to explain it without the page in front of you. Ask for examples whenever an explanation feels abstract. Examples show how a principle behaves in real situations. Then create your own example. If you can produce a new example without copying the original, your understanding is becoming stronger. Another useful question is, what would prove me wrong? This can protect you from becoming attached to an idea simply because you like it. Before making an important decision, identify the evidence that would change your mind. This encourages more honest thinking. It also helps you notice information that does not support your original opinion. You should also ask, "What am I assuming?" Assumptions often control decisions without being noticed. You may assume that a customer wants the cheapest option. You may assume that a difficult task requires more time than it actually does. You may assume that someone understands your instructions. You may assume that your current method is the best available. Naming assumptions makes them easier to test. Ask, "What is the simplest explanation?" before creating a complicated one. A problem may appear difficult because several small issues are mixed together. Separate them. Identify the basic facts. Remove unnecessary details. Then examine the remaining problem. Clear thinking often begins with reducing confusion rather than adding more information. Your questions should also become more precise as your skill improves. A beginner may ask what a tool does. An experienced user may ask why one method produces better results than another. A beginner may ask how to write. An advanced learner may ask how sentence length affects clarity for a specific audience. Precision creates deeper learning. Do not be afraid to ask basic questions. Some people avoid asking because they fear looking inexperienced. This can create years of confusion around a simple misunderstanding. A clear question asked early can save a large amount of wasted effort. You do not need to pretend to understand something that you do not understand. Ask people questions that respect their experience. Instead of asking someone to solve your entire problem, show what you have already tried. Explain where you are stuck. Then ask for guidance on that specific point. This makes the conversation more useful and shows that you are willing to do your part. You can improve your questions by keeping a question journal. Whenever you encounter something confusing, write the question down. Do not immediately search for the answer. First, make the question as precise as possible, then research it. After finding the answer, write the answer in your own words and record how you will use it. This creates a personal learning system. Review your unanswered questions each week. Some will become irrelevant. Others will reveal deeper subjects worth studying. A few may expose important gaps in your knowledge. This process helps you choose what to learn next, instead of allowing the internet to decide what receives your attention. Learn to use comparison questions too. Ask how two methods differ. Ask when one method is better than another. Ask what each method does poorly. Comparing alternatives creates deeper understanding than memorizing one preferred method. It teaches you to choose based on circumstances. For example, do not only learn one way to study. Compare reading, practice testing, teaching, and solving problems. Test which method helps you remember and apply information. Do not assume that the method you enjoy most is the method that teaches you most effectively. Measure what happens after the learning session. Another powerful question is, what is the next smallest thing I need to understand? This prevents you from becoming overwhelmed by a large subject. You do not need to understand an entire field today. Identify the next piece. Learn it. Connect it to what you already know. Then move forward. Fast learning does not mean rushing through material. It means reducing wasted effort. A person who spends 5 hours studying the wrong material is not learning faster than someone who spends 1 focused hour studying the right material. Speed comes from direction, useful feedback, and efficient correction. Avoid confusing difficulty with value. Some complicated information is unnecessary for your current goal. Learn what you need for the problem you are solving. Later, you can expand your understanding. Good learners know how to go deep when depth matters and stay simple when complexity adds no value. Your questions should also help you notice patterns. When the same mistake happens repeatedly, ask what connects those situations. When several successful people behave similarly, ask why that behavior may matter. When a strategy works in one situation but fails in another, ask what changed. Pattern recognition becomes stronger when you actively search for relationships between events. Use questions during everyday conversations as well. Ask people what they mean before assuming. Ask what outcome they want. Ask what they have already tried. Ask what would make the situation better. Listening for the answer can improve your relationships because people often become more cooperative when they feel understood. Do not use questions as a way to avoid action. Endless research can become another form of delay. At some point, you must test what you have learned. Set a limit for research, then apply the information. Let the result create the next question. This creates a powerful learning cycle. You identify a problem. You ask a precise question. You find useful information. You test it. You observe the result. Then you ask a better question based on what happened. Each cycle increases your understanding because the next question is informed by real experience. Try this today with something you are currently learning. Write down the broad subject, then narrow it into one problem. Turn that problem into a precise question. Find one reliable answer. Use the answer in a real task. Record what happened. Then write the next question that appeared. You will begin to notice that learning becomes more active. Instead of waiting for information to arrive, you become responsible for directing your attention. Instead of collecting facts, you search for answers to real problems. Instead of accepting every explanation, you test what you learn. Instead of repeating the same confusion, you identify the exact gap and work on it. Better questions also improve the quality of your decisions. Before accepting advice, ask what evidence supports it. Before starting a new project, ask what problem it solves. Before spending money, ask what result you expect. Before accepting a commitment, ask what it will require from you. Before reacting emotionally, ask what facts you actually know. These questions do not make life complicated. They can make it clearer because they remove unnecessary guessing. A good question can slow you down for a few seconds and save you from hours of correction later. Make curiosity part of your daily behavior. Carry a notebook or use a simple notes app. Record questions that appear during work. Review them regularly. Research the ones that matter. Test the answers. Keep the lessons that prove useful. Over time, you will build a habit of learning directly from your own experience. The person who asks better questions gains an advantage because every problem becomes a source of information. A mistake becomes something to investigate. A strong result becomes something to understand. A difficult conversation becomes an opportunity to learn about communication. A failed plan becomes evidence about what needs to change. Learn to question your confusion instead of accepting it. Question your assumptions before defending them. Question your methods before repeating them. Question your results before celebrating them too quickly. Then use the answers to improve the next action. Learning faster is not about putting more information into your head. It is about becoming better at finding what matters, understanding it clearly, testing it honestly, and using the result to guide your next step. Your questions control where your attention goes. Improve the questions, and you improve the quality of your learning. Chapter 9. Raise your effort when standards rise. Higher standards require different behavior. You cannot expect better results while continuing to give the same level of attention, preparation, and care. The moment your responsibilities increase, your old habits are tested. A task that once took 30 minutes may now require deeper thinking. A skill that once looked impressive may no longer be enough. Growth creates new demands, and your response to those demands determines whether you continue improving or remain at your previous level. Many people make a common mistake when they become more capable. They keep working exactly as they did before. They use the same amount of preparation. They give the same attention to small details. They solve larger problems with methods designed for smaller ones. Their responsibilities increase, but their effort stays fixed. This creates frustration because they believe they are working hard while the situation now requires more from them. Take a simple example from work. A person may perform extremely well when responsible for 5 tasks. Later, they receive 10 tasks and continue using the same planning method. The problem may not be a lack of ability. The system that worked at a smaller level is no longer enough. More responsibility requires better organization, clearer priorities, stronger communication, and more careful decisions. This principle applies to personal growth as well. You may become better at a skill and start receiving harder assignments. People may trust you with important work. Your results may affect other people. At that stage, effort is not only about spending more time. It is about increasing the quality of preparation and improving the way you use your time. Start by identifying what has changed. Look at your current responsibilities compared with 6 months ago. Are the tasks harder? Are the consequences larger? Are more people depending on you? Are deadlines tighter? Are expectations clearer? Are mistakes more expensive? The answers tell you whether your old approach still fits your current situation. Then examine your preparation. Strong performance usually begins before the visible work starts. A person who prepares poorly often spends extra time fixing problems later. Preparation can include reading the material, checking important numbers, understanding the objective, identifying possible problems, and deciding what must be completed first. A short preparation period can prevent a long correction period. Do not measure effort only by hours. One carefully planned hour can be more valuable than several hours of scattered activity. At higher levels, judgment becomes part of effort. You must decide what deserves attention and what can be ignored. You must know when to move quickly and when slowing down will prevent an expensive mistake. Raise your standard for preparation as your work becomes more important. Before an important meeting, know the purpose and the decisions that may be required. Before submitting a report, check the facts and remove unclear sections. Before teaching someone, make sure you understand the subject well enough to answer reasonable questions. Before making a large purchase, understand the cost and possible consequences. Your standard for accuracy should also rise. Small mistakes may be acceptable during early practice because you are learning the basics. As your responsibility grows, careless mistakes become more costly. Build a review process into important work. Check names, numbers, dates, instructions, and key claims. Do not assume that being experienced means you cannot make simple errors. A useful habit is to create a short final check before completing important work. Ask what could be wrong. Look at the work again specifically for that problem. This is different from reading everything casually. You are looking with a purpose. A focused review can catch errors that normal reading misses. Higher standards also require better time decisions. When your workload grows, you cannot simply add more tasks to every hour. You must decide what matters most. Separate tasks into important, necessary, and optional. Protect time for work that has meaningful consequences. Handle routine matters efficiently. Delay or remove activities that consume attention without producing enough value. Learn to say no to work that does not fit your priorities. This can feel uncomfortable because people may expect immediate agreement, but accepting everything can lower the quality of everything you already promised. A respectful refusal can protect your ability to deliver good work. You do not need to explain every detail. A clear response about your current commitments may be enough. Your communication should also become stronger as your standards rise. Higher responsibility often means more people need to understand what you are doing. Give clear instructions, confirm important details, state deadlines accurately. Tell people when a problem appears instead of hiding it until the last moment. Good communication prevents small misunderstandings from becoming large problems. Raise your standard for reliability too. Reliability means people do not have to repeatedly check whether you completed what you said you would do. It means you keep track of commitments. It means you communicate early when something changes. It means you do not depend on other people reminding you about responsibilities that belong to you. One simple practice can improve this immediately. Keep one list of active commitments. Write the task, the expected result, and the deadline. Review the list at the start and end of each day. This prevents commitments from remaining only in your memory. It also makes it easier to see whether you have accepted more than you can handle. Your learning effort should rise with your level of responsibility too. Early learning may involve basic information. Later development requires deeper study. You may need to understand why a method works, when it fails, and how to adapt it. Read more carefully. Study real examples. Look at mistakes made by experienced people. Learn from situations that are closer to the problems you now face. Do not only study success, study failure at a higher level. Find out why experienced people make mistakes. Examine decisions that produced poor results. Look at what information was ignored. Ask what warning signs appeared earlier. This can teach you to recognize problems before they become serious. Another change should happen in the way you handle feedback. As standards rise, general comments become less useful. You need specific information. Ask where the work falls short of the expected level. Ask what a stronger version would look like. Ask which one improvement would have the largest effect. Then act on the feedback rather than collecting it for appearance. Do not become defensive when someone raises the standard. A higher expectation can feel like criticism, especially when you were proud of your previous performance. Separate your identity from the result. The fact that your work can improve does not erase what you have already accomplished. It simply means the next level requires additional development. You also need to recognize when effort is being wasted. Working harder on the wrong process can produce exhaustion without meaningful progress. If you repeatedly face the same problem, examine the method. Perhaps you need better tools, perhaps you need training, perhaps you need help from someone more experienced, perhaps the task should be divided differently. More effort is useful only when it is directed toward the right problem. This is why serious improvement includes process design. Do not repeatedly solve the same avoidable problem. Create a checklist. Save a useful template. Organize information better. Automate a simple repetitive task when appropriate. Establish a routine for reviewing important work. The goal is not to avoid effort. The goal is to reserve human attention for work that actually requires it. Your physical environment may need to change as well. Higher quality work may require a quieter space, better equipment, organized materials, or a more reliable schedule. You do not need expensive tools to improve. You need to identify what repeatedly interferes with good performance and make reasonable adjustments. There is also a social side to raising your effort. The people around you influence what feels normal. Spend time with people who take their responsibilities seriously. Observe how they prepare. Notice how they handle mistakes. Watch how they manage pressure. You may discover that high standards are not about dramatic effort every day. They are often built through careful habits that prevent unnecessary problems. Do not compare yourself blindly with people who have completely different circumstances. Study their methods instead. Ask what behavior could reasonably fit your life. You may not be able to copy their schedule, but you can learn from their preparation, organization, or attention to detail. As your standards rise, your definition of finished should change. Finished should not simply mean the deadline arrived. It should mean the work meets the necessary requirement. Sometimes that means checking details. Sometimes it means asking someone to review the result. Sometimes it means making one more revision. Learn to distinguish completion from quality. At the same time, avoid endless perfectionism. Higher standards do not mean every task deserves unlimited effort. A routine email does not require the same level of review as an important contract. A practice exercise does not need the same preparation as a public presentation. Match your effort to the importance and risk of the task. Good judgment includes knowing where excellence matters most. A useful daily question is simple. What does this responsibility require from me now? Not what did it require 6 months ago. Not what was enough when I was a beginner. Look at the current situation. Identify the current demand. Then adjust your preparation, attention, and effort accordingly. You may discover that the next level requires learning something uncomfortable. Perhaps you need to become better at speaking. Maybe you need to understand numbers. Maybe you need to delegate. Maybe you need to negotiate. Maybe you need to manage your emotions during pressure. Do not avoid the skill simply because it exposes a weakness. Higher responsibility often reveals exactly what you need to learn next. Take one responsibility in your life that has recently become more demanding. Write down what worked at the old level. Then identify what is no longer enough. Choose one adjustment. Improve the preparation. Increase the review. Protect more focused time. Learn a missing skill. Communicate earlier. Test the new approach for 2 weeks. At the end of those 2 weeks, look at the result. Did the quality improve? Did mistakes decrease? Did you feel less rushed? Did other people need fewer corrections? Did the work become easier because the process became better? Use the evidence to decide what should change next. This is how you grow into greater responsibility without simply exhausting yourself. You raise the quality of your effort instead of blindly increasing the quantity. You learn to prepare better, organize better, communicate better, and review better. Your work becomes stronger because your method becomes stronger. There will be times when the new standard feels uncomfortable. That is normal. A higher level demands behaviors you have not yet made automatic. Give yourself time to develop them. Do not expect a new standard to feel natural on the first day. Practice it until the additional care becomes part of your normal routine. Your standards should keep moving because your capacity can keep growing. What once required your full attention may eventually become easy. That creates room for another challenge. Do not be disappointed when the old standard stops feeling impressive. That is evidence that you have developed. Raise your effort with purpose. Prepare more carefully when the responsibility matters more. Review your work when errors carry greater consequences. Learn new skills when your current abilities are no longer enough. Protect your attention when demands increase. Improve your systems when your workload grows. The goal is not to work yourself into exhaustion. The goal is to become capable of handling greater responsibility with greater care. Your effort should become more intelligent as your standards rise. That is how you move from simply doing more work to producing work that deserves greater trust. Chapter 10. Keep growing until excellence feels normal. Excellence becomes powerful when it stops feeling like a special event and becomes part of your ordinary behavior. The strongest performers do not need to feel excited every morning before doing quality work. They have built standards that guide their actions even on average days. They prepare properly. They pay attention. They correct mistakes. They keep learning. Their best behavior has become normal because they have repeated it long enough to make it familiar. This does not happen through one dramatic decision. It develops through many ordinary choices made over a long period. A person becomes dependable by keeping promises repeatedly. A skilled worker becomes accurate by checking details repeatedly. A strong communicator becomes clear by practicing communication repeatedly. Excellence is built through behaviors that are performed so often that they no longer require a large emotional effort. Start by understanding an important difference between achievement and development. Achievement gives you a result. Development gives you a stronger ability to produce results again. Winning once does not prove that your process is reliable. Completing one excellent project does not mean you have built a dependable standard. Real growth happens when you can produce good work across different situations without depending on luck or perfect conditions. This is why consistency deserves serious attention. You may have days when your performance is excellent and other days when it drops sharply. Your goal is not to make every day perfect. Your goal is to reduce the gap between your best behavior and your normal behavior. That gap becomes smaller when you build routines that make quality easier to repeat. Look at one area where you want excellence. It could be your work, communication, fitness, learning, leadership, writing, business, or personal organization. Define what excellent performance actually means there. Do not use vague words such as better or successful. Describe the behavior. Maybe excellence means preparing before every important meeting. Maybe it means reviewing work before submission. Maybe it means practicing a skill for a specific amount of time. A clear standard can be practiced. Once you know the standard, make it visible in your daily routine. Do not rely on memory alone. Put the behavior into your schedule. Keep the necessary materials ready. Create a checklist when the process has several steps. Use reminders for commitments that are easy to forget. The less you depend on temporary motivation, the more stable your behavior becomes. One reason people struggle with consistency is that they create routines that are too demanding. They design an ideal day instead of a realistic one. The schedule looks impressive on paper, but collapses when work becomes busy or energy drops. A better approach is to create a minimum standard that can survive difficult days. For example, a person learning a language might study for an hour on strong days and review for 15 minutes on difficult days. Someone developing a writing habit might produce several pages when time allows and write one focused paragraph during a demanding day. The minimum does not replace serious effort. It protects continuity when circumstances are less favorable. This matters because repeated interruption creates a psychological cost. Every time you abandon an important behavior for a long period, restarting requires another decision. You must convince yourself to begin again. A smaller, consistent practice can keep the behavior familiar and reduce the resistance that comes with restarting. You should also review your standards regularly. A routine that helped you 1 year ago may not be enough now. As your ability improves, the next weakness becomes easier to see. Your old process may have solved an earlier problem while creating a new limitation. Growth requires periodic inspection of the way you work. Set a review point every few weeks. Ask what is working. Ask what is causing unnecessary difficulty. Ask where mistakes continue to appear. Ask which activity produces the greatest improvement. Then make one practical adjustment. Do not redesign everything at once. A focused change is easier to test and easier to maintain. Your mistakes should become part of this process. Do not treat every mistake as proof that you are failing. Treat it as information about your system. If you repeatedly forget something, your memory may not be the real problem. Your system may need a reminder. If you repeatedly miss deadlines, your planning method may need improvement. If you repeatedly misunderstand instructions, you may need to confirm expectations before starting. This approach changes the way you respond to errors. Instead of asking only who made the mistake, ask why the mistake was possible. That question can reveal weak processes. Once the process improves, the same mistake becomes less likely to happen again. Excellence also requires knowing when to slow down. Speed is useful, but rushing can create avoidable errors. A person who moves quickly through every task may feel productive while spending extra time correcting mistakes later. Learn which tasks deserve careful attention. Important decisions, financial information, safety-related work, communication with serious consequences, and high-value projects usually deserve a deliberate review. At the same time, learn where speed is appropriate. Routine tasks should not consume your best mental energy. Create simple methods for them. Group similar activities together. Prepare frequently used materials. Remove unnecessary steps. The purpose is to protect your attention for work where judgment matters most. Another part of long-term growth is learning to handle boredom. Many people enjoy improvement when progress is obvious. They lose interest when the same basic practice must be repeated for months. Yet repetition is often where skill becomes stable. The excitement of being a beginner disappears, and disciplined practice becomes more important. Do not judge a useful routine only by how exciting it feels. Ask whether it produces a valuable result. Some of the most important work in life is ordinary. Reviewing notes, checking details, practicing fundamentals, planning tomorrow, cleaning up unfinished tasks, reading carefully, having difficult conversations. These activities may not feel impressive, but they create reliable performance. You should also protect your standards when nobody is rewarding you. Recognition can help, but it cannot be the foundation of excellence. There will be long periods when your improvement is invisible. You may practice for weeks without receiving a compliment. You may improve a process, and nobody may notice. You may become more capable without anyone saying anything. That is normal. The value of development is not always immediately visible to other people. Your stronger judgment may prevent a problem that never happens. Your improved communication may avoid a conflict that nobody knows could have occurred. Your preparation may make a difficult task look easy. Sometimes the best evidence of growth is that problems become smaller. Keep learning from people who are better than you. Even after reaching a high level, there will be someone who has developed a skill you have not mastered. Study how they think, watch how they prepare, listen to how they explain difficult ideas, notice how they respond under pressure. You do not need to copy their personality. Study their methods and decide which principles fit your situation. Stay willing to return to basic principles too. Advanced performance often depends on fundamentals that people become careless about. Clear communication still matters. Preparation still matters. Attention still matters. Honest feedback still matters. Good sleep still matters. Keeping commitments still matters. Experience does not remove the need for basics. A person can become highly skilled and still decline because they stop respecting fundamentals. They rush because they are experienced. They stop reviewing because they have done the task many times. They stop asking questions because they assume they know the answer. They stop preparing because previous success has created confidence. The best defense is deliberate humility. You do not need to feel inexperienced to remain teachable. You can be confident in your ability while remaining open to correction. Confidence says you can handle the feedback. Humility says the feedback may contain something useful. Your environment should support long-term development. Spend time with people who respect learning and responsibility. Read material that challenges your understanding. Work with people who give honest feedback. Reduce exposure to influences that constantly encourage distraction or careless behavior. Your environment does not determine your future, but it can make certain choices easier or harder. Another important skill is knowing how to recover. Long-term growth does not mean uninterrupted performance. There will be illness, family problems, unexpected work, emotional stress, financial pressure, and periods of low energy. Your ability to return to your standards after disruption matters more than maintaining perfect consistency. When you fall behind, avoid the temptation to compensate with an extreme effort that you cannot maintain. Restart with the next useful action. Complete the next task. Rebuild the routine. Review what caused the interruption. Adjust the plan if necessary. Recovery becomes easier when you focus on the next practical step instead of judging the entire period. You can also create a personal record of progress. Keep examples of your older work. Save important milestones. Record skills you have developed. Write down lessons from difficult experiences. This gives you evidence that change is possible. It also allows you to see patterns that are difficult to notice from day to day. Do not use this record only to celebrate. Use it to identify the next challenge. Once you have solved one problem, ask what problem deserves attention now. Once a skill becomes reliable, look for a more demanding application. Once a habit becomes normal, decide whether it still serves your current goals. This creates a healthy cycle. You improve a behavior, the behavior becomes easier. Your capacity increases, your standards become clearer. A new challenge appears, you study it, you practice, the new behavior becomes familiar, then you repeat the process. That is how excellence becomes normal. You stop treating good performance as something that requires a special mood. You build systems that support it. You practice enough for the behavior to become familiar. You review your results. You correct weak points. You continue learning. Over time, the actions that once required great effort become part of your ordinary day. Consider what happens to a person who follows this process for years. They may not feel dramatically different every morning. There may be no constant feeling of achievement. Yet their decisions become more reliable. Their work becomes more consistent. Their judgment improves. Their mistakes become less frequent. Their response to difficulty becomes calmer. Other people begin trusting them with greater responsibility. That trust is often a result of repeated evidence. People trust the person who prepares. They trust the person who communicates clearly. They trust the person who accepts responsibility. They trust the person who keeps learning. They trust the person whose behavior remains dependable when circumstances become difficult. Your goal should not be to become impressive for a short period. Build a level of ability that remains useful for years. This requires patience, because meaningful development is rarely complete after one season of effort. There will always be another skill to improve, another weakness to address, another responsibility to handle better. Keep your standards high enough to require growth, and realistic enough to practice every day. Do not create standards that only exist in your imagination. Build standards that can be seen in your actions. Measure them, review them, adjust them. Keep the ones that produce better results. Today, choose one behavior that represents the person you want to become. Make it specific. Decide when you will practice it. Prepare the environment. Do the work. Record what happened. Repeat it tomorrow. After several weeks, review the evidence and improve the process. Do not wait until excellence feels exciting. Let it become familiar through repetition. Do not wait for the perfect conditions. Learn to perform well under ordinary conditions. Do not depend on praise. Learn to respect your own standard. Do not stop because you have become good. Use your current ability as the starting point for the next level. There is no need to chase perfection. The useful goal is dependable improvement. Become slightly clearer, slightly more prepared, slightly more skilled, slightly more responsible, slightly better at handling difficult situations. Those small improvements become significant when they are repeated for years. One day you may look at a task that once felt difficult and realize that it has become normal for you. You will prepare without being reminded. You will notice mistakes before they become serious. You will ask better questions. You will handle pressure with more control. You will know how to practice. You will know how to recover. You will know how to keep learning. That is a deeper form of success. You have not simply achieved a result. You have changed the level at which you operate. Keep growing. Keep studying. Keep practicing the behaviors that matter. Keep raising your understanding as your ability increases. Let excellence become ordinary through the choices you make every day, especially on the days when nobody notices. The strongest evidence of personal growth is not what you can do once. It is what you can do consistently without needing perfect conditions. Build that kind of ability. Make quality part of your normal behavior. Then keep developing beyond it. Becoming the best at anything does not happen in one powerful moment. It happens through the choices you make after the excitement disappears. It happens when you practice the skill nobody praises, correct the mistake nobody notices, and keep learning after you become good. You do not need to master everything. Choose what matters to you. Give it your attention. Learn the skills that support it. Practice with patience. Study your mistakes. Raise your standards. Then keep going. Remember this. Your ability grows when your daily standards become stronger than your excuses. The next time you feel like you are not improving fast enough, do not quit. Stop and ask what you can learn, what you can change, and what you can practice today. Your best level is not a fixed destination. There is always another skill to develop, another weakness to improve, and another level of understanding to reach. So take what you learned today and use it. Do not just listen to another audiobook. Apply one lesson from this one, and come back when you are ready for the next step, because becoming better is a daily process, and your next level is built by what you do after this video ends.